Assalamualaikum everybody, welcome to reaction video aku nak buat pasal aku nak introduce korang kat satu channel yang aku tengah follow and subscribe. Aku harap korang subscribe juga. See, aku sengaja unsubscribe untuk nak kasih tunjuk korang aku tekan. So channel ni dia suka buat comparison di antara original source dengan anime dikeluarkan. So kenapa dia ada sedikit letakkan kepada gua apa tu? Ni manga comparison untuk Demon Slayer. Lepas tu ada anime-anime lain yang dia buat. Aku nak promote pasal dia baru saja ada 25k. And aku tahu channel aku pun tak sebanyak macam ni, tapi aku nak kasih perhatian korang kat channel ni. Aku rasa dia orang letak banyak gila effort and korang patut nak tengok. Ada juga Attack on Titan, macam semua anime hype dia akan buat comparison. And sekarang ni selepas semua anime lain dah habis, dia fokus pada Spy X Family. And dia orang baru saja upload satu video yang 7 jam lepas. Jom kita tengok. Nanti korang boleh subscribe and tengok video daripada episod 1 dah sampai semua dia. Send him some love. This is a really good channel. Aku harap dia akan lebih berjaya selepas ni. And let's start with
Welcome
the video.
back to the Spy X Family Comparison Series. Today we'll cover episode 5, the legendary episode that covered chapter 6 from the manga. While this episode did have very little manga content to work with, it still became one of the standout episodes in this series, aided by some very heavy-duty Sakuga. We'll get into that Sakuga later, but for now let's jump right into chapter 6 as the wise agency chief and his assistant
So dia akan lambat sikit upload video. Of course dia nak buat comparison kan. Tapi look at this. This is the one that I love about his channel. Dia betul-betul compare. Dia betul-betul compare antara manga dan juga anime yang ada. Menarik.
Something that the anime didn't really state, nor did it actually show this control room, but we'll be seeing a lot of it later on anyways. As far as that little chat between the two wise operatives go though, their little back and forth about
sampai dialog pun dia macam okay, ni ada dialog dia.
As we
Dia lupa tak
transition
ada.
into our first anime exclusive scene of the day with the forgers experiencing some bad omens.
So ini yang aku sebenarnya nak buat masa Mushoku Tensei dengan novel yang dia buat. Macam dia cakap original content daripada anime exclusive original content yang tak wujud kat dalam dalam manga, tapi dia tambah.
It's this bad omen that will resume the conversation the wise operatives were having, and from a quick little extra line from the chief, you can tell he's not really paying Operation Strix much mind. Actually, there's a couple of line revisions here, as the chief now says that Twilight is the best spy in Westalis. Something that I guess the assistant didn't know, because the anime clarified that she never knew much about him to begin with. These changes play pretty well into the assistant chief's decision making. For now, let's talk about Lloyd's file that only the anime shows us.
Aku tak perasan kenapa dia tunjuk spender dia pun apa.
Okay, well that's not entirely true. This information on the screen actually comes
Underpants black. Why?
from the confidential files section at the back of volume 1. It may not really say much in the end, but it was still a nice little touch if they added some of that in,
palsu black.
half the page is redacted. Twilight certainly got quite the resume, but even that won't help him overcome the realization that Anya didn't quite make the Eden College cut. A reaction that actually comes from the first page of this chapter, right after showing 2 panels of them looking for Anya's number. As for the illustration that was actually shown during this moment in the manga, we'll have to wait until after the opening finishes and they start walking away from the board. Something they don't do in the manga until after they wipe those dreadful looks off their faces. Kind of disappointed we didn't get this face from Lloyd, but I'm sure we'll be seeing it a lot in future episodes. Despite how shocked they all are, though, Lloyd and Lloyd do seem a little more supportive of Anya's feelings this time, since she thinks it's her fault for stepping in that anime exclusive poop from earlier. Fortunately, the forgers have a guardian angel at their side as Henderson comes in to inform them that Anya's #1 on the waiting list. Some news that we really needed, especially Lloyd, although he is a little perplexed.
Oh my god, it's the same. I love it.
On the other hand, is going through some mixed emotions of her own when considering how she'll clear up a spot for Anya to get accepted. This daydream sequence has been changed up quite a bit in the anime, as Yor no longer plays out her murder fantasy in the middle of a big dinner party.
Holy shit, this was the original?
On the way to her imaginary target. Instead, she slowly walks to him while he's all alone, at which point the guy is quick to play the "Don't kill me, I have a child" card, a card that he doesn't seem to have on hand like he does in the manga. Not that it matters though, since this kid is the reason this imaginary man is about to lose his life in a horrendous fashion. It was so bloody in the anime that when Yor snapped out of it, she now apologizes to Lloyd for acting a little strange. It's okay, Yor. Imaginary assassinations won't be held against you, not even by your partially amused daughter.
Oh yeah, betul. Anya boleh dapat baca.
Anya isn't exactly taking this lightly either though, as over the next couple of days she performs an anime exclusive dance calling upon the acceptance gods.
Dah banyak gila green screen apa tu Anya punya dance ni. Oh my god. is everywhere.
Mr. Chimera. And it's as Anya is doing this cute little dance that the phone rings and Lloyd zips around her while Anya goes spinning out of control. In the anime, she was spinning so much that not only did she lose Mr. Chimera, Yor had to stop her from spinning off into the stratosphere. A bit rude, Lloyd, but I can hardly blame him. He was looking forward to this day so much that he kept a party popper in his pocket for the last 3 days. Those days must have felt like an eternity, so it only makes sense that even Anya does a bit more celebrating in the anime before Lloyd picks her up to congratulate her. And it's such a momentous occasion that apparently everyone on the block already knows about it. Yeah, sure, Frankie, just let yourself in, why don't you?
My
this
God,
Frankie,
hide langsung dia tu spy juga.
Drunk mess that will be the initiator for future events. Really, it seems like everyone at this dinner table can't hold their drink very well. Oh, except for Lloyd, who Frankie asks if he's even drinking at all. Now, this is where things start to vary, because in the manga, while Lloyd is holding a wine glass, he says that he's been trained to drink without getting intoxicated, but in the anime, he just straight isn't drinking at all, meaning that he forgoes that line and just tells Frankie to leave him alone. Personally, I think this part was changed because Lloyd should be alcohol-free since he'll be
yelah, dia nak naik kapal terbang, so bahaya pula di kerajaan Jepun macam, no, kau tak boleh promote.
He's proving to be a real thorn in Lloyd's side, as he basically promised Anya that her dad would do something for her as a reward for getting accepted.
Salah
and with
dia.
some help from a prehistoric DVR, Anya points out exactly what it is she wants to do, with some specific Bondman references. Pay close attention, Lloyd, because these are the stunts you're gonna have to be recreating pretty soon. As for the castle Frankie recommends they go to, it's originally left up to interpretation as to whether the castle in Monk is the castle from the show, but thanks to some new line revisions, Frankie basically confirms that the Newton Castle is the same one from the show. It's even got the same traps and everything, something that Lloyd wants no part of, but thanks to the guilt cards Frankie and Anya are playing, he has no choice but to agree. Something we just assumed he did in the manga, because by the next panel, they're already at the castle. But the anime instead decides to show us the preparations and process of arriving at said castle first, starting with Lloyd agreeing to go tonight and him calling up his headquarters for assistance. I get the feeling that this lady wouldn't have agreed if it weren't for that new line her boss said at the beginning of the episode. Because of that, this man gets all the priority in the world. So the control room, which the anime is finally showing us, sends out a call for agents to get an airplane ready for him by 6:30 sharp. So right after Anya and Frankie finish their little strategy meeting, the family goes to the Nine River to get kitted out for some time in the sky. And once that blissful ride is over, we can finally reach the castle section and start following the
That was one frame. Berapa banyak dia orang tambah.
Clearly still drunk. They don't run around for long though, because Anya can tell something isn't quite right. Something she verbalizes a lot better in the anime thanks to some additional lines added here and there. And of course, this is something Frankie is quick to jump on, with another anime-only line of him saying that Lloyd really should be upping his game. And up his game he shall, as the anime now shows his transmission for backup reaching headquarters. And they send literally every agent they have available to the people. And the way they arrive has really been extremicized for the anime. They may not come by car anymore, but nothing can beat showing up via speedboat or airdrop. I'm just gonna assume they all brought food with them, because the time it took for them to get everything set up and running is Guinness Book of World Records worthy. They definitely have the motivation to get it done though, as this mission is
this episode is really the best.
Something that the anime alone tells us. Now, normally it's about here that Lloyd would ask Anya what's next, and Anya would assign roles to her guardians before chilling behind a makeshift prison. But that would be too boring, so instead they take this show to the limelight for all the other agents to watch, so that Lloyd can basically hand over the chain of command to Frank, who starts by introducing the protagonist of this little play.
Wah, dia tukar banyak gila kot.
Then goes on to introduce the rest of the cast in a similar way to how she does in the manga, with the exception of Frankie, who not only is still drunk, but has adopted the persona of Scruffy Head. This guy will be the main antagonist of this story, and since the agents aren't just there for developments like they are in the manga, he wastes no time putting these henchmen to work while he takes off with the princess, as well as Yor, who's just there for the ride, really. And thanks to a helpful drawing from Anya, Lloyd Man the Savior is off to rescue the princess. But first he has to pass that test that Anya prepared earlier. As for that first question about why Anya likes Bondman, Lloyd really should have gotten this answer right. She basically told him right to his face in episode 1, but at least he got the peanut question right. As far as that last question goes though, I'm sure we all at home had our own idea as to what Anya wanted in that moment, but alas, it's a question that no one could have guessed the answer to, meaning that Lloyd's punishment will be to fully cement his status as the one and only Lloyd Man. While that first stage was pretty cute, it's the next ones that I've been looking forward to the most, because while they might not have anything to do with the manga, they display the best Sakuga this series has seen thus far, and it's all aided by a fantastic...
By the way, Sasuga is like, as expected, yang ayat orang Jepun selalu guna tu, macam, patutlah yang ni hebat, tengoklah siapa buat, macam tu lah. Itu yang bahasa Melayu dia, Sakuga.
Insert song by No Name. It really adds a lot to Void Man's action scenes, and it's timed perfectly to the music. They know exactly when to switch from instrumental to vocals, and its impact makes this child
this fight scene was fucking amazing.
Void Man does his best to keep up with Anya's fantasy, and that fantasy starts with the ride down a slide as the Scruff God's minions get ready for their big battle. Good to see those drawings Anya made at the house are being put to good use here.
Oh shit, really?
By the time they're ready, Lloyd has officially reached the second stage, where the theme of the room is balls. Balls that are used by the bad guys to stall Void Man's advance, while they themselves get in on the action. I like how these two elements are seamlessly blended together without being too overwhelming by forcing a reduction in movement as they grow further into the distance. Because when these certain elements start to ease into the background, it forces us to bring our attention to the next obstacle in Void Man's way. And while it might look like Void Man is taking these guys out on the surface, technically they're taking themselves out. All Void Man is really doing is redirecting their energy by zipping around them, starting with this guy who literally just threw his body in front of Void. And while that not too bright guy steadily falls out of the frame, another guy comes in from the right hand side, and Lloyd uses the blue ball in front of him to conceal his jump over that guy. This guy is definitely a little more skilled than the last one though, as he recovers and goes for a pincer maneuver with the help of this new guy.
Aku tak terfikir pasal benda tu. That's why aku nak korang pergi subscribe kat orang ni, because
he was also unintentionally moving in sync with the nearby green ball that he bounced off of when he missed Lloyd. As a bonus, this ball also took out the guy going for the pincer, while Lloyd vaults over the last new guy that came into the frame.
Cool.
Clearly this tactic of just throwing themselves at Lloyd isn't working too well, so they switch things up by masking their approach with some ball-triggered smoke screens. And just like episode 1, these smoke effects are always so impressive. They split off, break away.
Episode 1 yang dia guna flower tu sebenarnya, kalau aku tengok video dia yang aku dapat info ni, kau pergi tengok balik episode 1, sebenarnya kau boleh nampak shadow Lloyd tengah sneakily kat bawah. Tak nampak, tak perasan saya. Kalau kau tengok sekali kau tak akan nampak Lloyd ada tengah sneaky kat bawah pergi tumbuk orang segala. Tapi sebenarnya dia cakap nampak, and aku tengok kali kedua macam shit, aku nampak benda tu.
Hey, and change with the wind direction so organically. That's the power of straight ahead animation for you. But even then, they still managed to plan it so that this one smoke bloom would obscure our vision just enough to have a bad guy materialize out of nowhere, while another guy comes
look
in
at that, look at
that. What? That's how they managed to grab both of Lloyd Man's arms, but before they can get him in a full-on arm lock, Lloyd Man quickly does a backflip while kicking them both in the head, knocking out the guy in the back while the guy in the foreground gets up only to get taken out with some friendly fire. I love how the wind basically diffuses the smoke by the end of this cut. Really nice touch. And now that the music is really starting to pick up, that means it's time for Lloyd Man to do some real hardcore parkour, starting with a leap over this guy before grabbing the next guy head on, throwing him over his shoulder. As for the guy after that, it's a little unclear what actually happened to him, but thanks to some residual smears from Lloyd's arm, I think we can at least assume this guy was hit pretty hard with it. From there, Lloyd Man does a back-facing sidestep to avoid an incoming yellow ball and uses the guy following that ball.
Good.
And from one springboard to the next, Lloyd starts hopping over.
It's not even a fighting anime. The fighting is better than any isekai yang aku nampak.
He ever has, causing the background comp to turn into a blurry mess, while Lloyd Man does an epic spin flip before landing and skimming past
this
two more
fight
balls
scene is what trash isekai is dreamed of.
This whole section, and especially this last cut, really shows the graceful rhythm of Lloyd Man's movements, thanks to some expert timing work from Keisuke Okura, the same guy that animated Lloyd's first fight in episode 1. He slowed down Lloyd Man's movements at the perfect moments, just enough for the audience to recognize certain moves without interrupting the flow or being too disconnected from reality. The anatomy here really is first-class stuff. Lloyd Man's limbs are so free, but in realistic terms, this form works in good conjunction with how anyone would balance themselves while doing moves like this. It has the perfect balance of exaggeration and believability. Keeping that momentum going while paying close attention to all the other elements on screen is an incredibly impressive feat. Moving on to the next stage though, Lloyd Man now has to reenact Bondman's climb through the tower. But it won't be easy because while the big balls
because of details,
the concentrated fire of the little ones hinders Lloyd Man's movements quite a bit more, especially when the even bigger guns are brought out, forcing Lloyd Man to take a more tactical approach by disarming and taking out the guy giving orders with a home running pitch. And once his gun falls to him, Lloyd Man can then use it to put pressure on the big guns. While he only managed to hit one of them in the face, these guys that come to replace them are disarmed with some more hits to their hands, making their weapons fall as well so that Lloyd Man can grab them and go for some dual wielding action. From the fight scenes in episode 1, we already knew Lloyd was good at thinking on his feet, but his adaptive nature even helps him to get some revenge on Frankie by shooting one guy, making him shoot balls wildly in the air, and then using shots from his own gun to propel those balls all the way to Frankie's face. Now that's some next level spatial awareness. He even checks both his corners when he finally makes his way to the roof. But
Hey,
it looks like
check
he's
corner,
a little too
penting.
late because the
Buat tunjuk
princess
spy
is
betul.
already being taken to another castle. So without wasting time, Lloydman reenacts the final action scene from the Bondman cartoon, using his belt for a zipline, and the henchmen in the background, seeing how cool he looks, decide to give his exit even more flair by triggering some Kaito Tomioka explosions. This guy really did a good job on the shading of Lloydman while he lightly sways back and forth with the light of the explosions bouncing off him. It creates a great baseline for a really cinematic scene. That, along with the vocals brought in at the start of this scene, makes everything feel 10 times more epic. And as Lloyd reaches the end of the line, he jumps off and puts his belt back on midair, extending his legs into a landing that, honestly, he shouldn't have survived. I mean, just look at that drop. But with a few little
Wait a minute. My boss just gave me something to watch. Oh, video yang viral. Hotel kita orang, video dia jadi viral. Ada orang re-upload balik hotel kita orang, Hotel Sam 9.
Pertama di Malaysia, iaitu Sam 9.
Gila. Okay, wait. This is for another video. Aku buat nanti.
Well, he's right as rain, and even gets a cool guys don't look at explosions moment at the end to wrap up that fantastic insert song, as well as conclude this giant chunk of anime exclusive content. Other studios better take notes because this is how you do fillers. Though it does help that the entire castle section in the manga was abnormally high.
Itu je. That was that. That was literally it.
To everyone, we're already at the part where Frankie says he's impressed that
That
Lloyd
was in one page.
So this is the point where we start lightly following the manga again, and Lloyd starts to get embarrassed about playing this little charade in front of all the other agents. I say lightly because unlike the manga, we're no longer in the dining hall at this point. We've long since moved on from that area. Because it's in this new area of the castle where behind closed doors, the final challenger, Yorticia the Witch, appears and starts wobbling her way over to Lloydman. Of course, in the manga, she was already standing right next to Lloyd, so it saves her time when she goes in for the right kick of doom. The anime really did this kick justice by showing just how harmless she looks going into it by gently whipping her head into the step strike. Despite that though, Lloydman did a fantastic job at evading an attack that sounded like it broke the sound.
And you know what?
You know what? Presence and
you know what? No panty shots. You know what? There's no sexiness. There's no fan service. Because who needs fan service while fighting when you have the action itself? You know, itu nak buatkan beza antara good anime and a clickbait anime. Aku tak nak panggil dia trash anime because sometimes the storyline ada yang best, ada some section yang best. Tapi aku panggil tu macam it's clickbait. It's literally clickbait. Dia orang boleh je letak panty shot kat situ kalau dia nak. But why? Let's focus on the important thing, the animation itself.
Uso-like hair seem to suggest that she's gotten a little too into her role as a witch that bobs and weaves into the camera like a boxer. She threw 5 strikes in this little exchange. 2 straights followed by a left roundhouse kick into a right reverse roundhouse kick that Lloyd decided he's better off avoiding before going back to blocking on the next kick. But that's just the opening act though, because Yorticia now gets really low to the ground to issue a flurry of kicks. Kicks that were framed a little too quick to count accurately, but based on the sound effects, about 14 or so in total, before it's assumed that she stands back up during this cut right here and throws 3 more roundhouse kicks. The last one of which carries over into the next cut where... Wait a minute. Okay, we're kicking, we're kicking.
Oh no!
Okay, so maybe there are some slight continuity errors there, and maybe some sound effects sounded like hits when they should have sounded like dodges. But to be fair, she did throw 8 quick hooks and jabs in this cut, so it can be kind of hard to keep track of in motion. And let's be honest, it's all just a lead up to that powerful uppercut that lifted Lloyd up into the air and sent a shockwave out his back. Forget boxing, yours starting to look like a UFC fighter now as she starts doing a 6-kick combo, only one of which Lloyd was able to dodge as the other 5 completely shred his Bondman gloves off and finally opens up his defenses for the first time. Honestly, after that upper kick, I was a little scared for Lloydman's life at this point, but it's pretty good that this ended the way that it did. While she made about 37 separate attacks in the anime, the manga is left a little more open to interpretation with the 2 panels that actually
it's a manga.
Really, that's about as long as the exchange lasts for in the manga before her heel breaks off and she falls to the ground. However, Yorticia isn't the only enemy that Lloydman has to fight, because now Count Scruffy is here to get taken out in one one hit. And with that, the day is officially saved, and Void Man reunites with Princess Anya at last. A heartwarming act that still spurs the crowd in the back, but on a far more emotional scale, as one of the guys holding back tears triggers the anime-exclusive fireworks for Anya to enjoy while congratulating her from the sidelines. And after Frankie says his own congratulations from the grave, we then continue the lines from the manga. The anime alone then goes on to show the ages apart right afterwards so that Anya can get some alone time with her dad. This time by a fountain instead of a balcony, as a mystical shooting star flies by. Not many parents would do what Void just did for Anya tonight, and I'm sure it'll be a night that she'll never forget. Though it did come at a cost.
Oh my god,
The chief assistant now has more time to process before giving her boss the damage report. And now that we actually get to see how much that is, it makes sense that there's a new line from the chief here asking if there isn't an extra 0 in there. Sorry to break it to you, man, but that's only one invoice. We'll see more of them in the next episode, but for this episode, that basically concludes this comparison, as Chapter 6 ends right here. It also marks an end to Phase 1 of Operation Strix, and from here on out, the success of the operation will rely heavily on how well Anya can do in school. It'll definitely be an interesting first day, to be sure.
Oh, I can't wait to see episode 6 punya comparison. Oh, it's gonna be so good. So, please, aku takkan buat reaction video untuk channel ni lagi. Hopefully aku buat untuk video lain pula, untuk video lain yang aku nak promote kat korang. But go to his channel, pergi subscribe kat dia, get in on the action. Tunggu minggu depan untuk episode 6 punya comparison, and tunggu juga episode 9 untuk minggu depan nak keluar. I can't wait to see it. Thank you guys everyone for watching. Hopefully you guys enjoy. Pergi subscribe kat dia. Aku lagi sanggup kau pergi subscribe kat dia daripada kau subscribe kat aku, because dia punya content jauh lagi best lagi pada semua anime watcher. So thank you guys everyone for watching. Please follow aku punya page juga yang di kerja punya lah, tapi follow Sam Senai untuk anything hotel related, gaming hotel related. Macam cakap sekarang ni hotel dah buka. Kita ada beberapa bilik untuk konsol PC, mobile pun ada juga. Ada yang ada katil, ada yang tak ada katil, harus untuk main game. Couples room macam ni yang tak ada katil tapi kau boleh main game segala. Tolong follow, ini kerja aku. Tapi aku nak korang follow juga. So thank you guys everyone for watching. I will see you guys again in the next episode. Bye bye. Assalamualaikum.